My name is Greg Ganсли, and I'm a senior fellow at the Rivendell Institute at Yale University. I want to start with a claim that may seem obvious to you. It is the claim that you cannot prove the existence of God. When people tell me this, I want to ask the question, how do you know? You just met me. Maybe I can. The response you get if you say something like that is that people are a little bit stunned. They take it as obvious that you cannot prove the existence of God. Now, I believe when people say this, they are saying something true and important philosophically. But most people do not know what's important about the statement. Most people think they're saying something important about God. I think they're saying something important about proof. What do most people mean when they say a sentence like, you cannot prove the existence of God? Most people mean something like the following. You cannot produce reasons or evidence or an argument for the claim that God exists, such that your case is so strong that it will persuade everybody that God exists. Or they mean you cannot produce the kind of evidence that will persuade a very committed skeptic. And of course, all of these claims are true. But do they tell us anything about God? Or whether it's reasonable to believe in God? I think not. What they tell us is something important about proof. Most people think about proof in terms of a kind of argument that delivers certainty. We get this kind of proof when we look at disciplines like mathematics or logic. But almost every academic discipline, philosophy, history, the physical sciences, operates on a different kind of reasoning than proof that delivers certainty. Now, this can be confusing for philosophy because philosophers often frame their arguments in what we call deductive arguments. A valid deductive argument is structured such that if the premises are true, the conclusion has to be true. So, an example you'll find in many textbooks is the following. Statement 1, all human beings are mortal. Statement 2, Socrates is a human being. Statement 3, therefore, Socrates is mortal. You can see that if statement 1 and statement 2 are both true, statement 3 has to be true. That's a good example of a valid deductive argument. But in an argument like this, most of the real work is done supporting the premises. So even though philosophers often frame their arguments in terms of deductive proofs, most of the real work of philosophy is in supporting the premises. And this makes philosophy an evidential discipline. We look for evidence. Is the premise true? What kinds of grounds can we bring forward to support the premise? Think about it this way. We see this kind of thing on TV all the time. Suppose a murder has been committed. What does the detective do? The detective comes in and picks up little bits of stuff. And these little bits of stuff may or may not become evidence. And they investigate this evidence to determine who it is who is most likely to have killed the victim. They never try to get 100% certainty. They're looking to build a strong case. And if the case is strong enough to convict someone beyond a reasonable doubt, then they are successful. So they pick up different bits of evidence and try to fit them into a story that makes sense of the claim that a particular person did the crime. So there are two things we can notice about the methods of a detective. One, the case that she builds is cumulative. Very rarely will there be one piece of evidence that convicts the criminal. There usually are many pieces of evidence. There may be fingerprints, there may be witnesses, there may be receipts, there may be all kinds of things that locate the suspect where the crime was committed. It's a cumulative case. Secondly, the whole approach is something that we could call a fittingness approach. How do we fit all these pieces of evidence together into one story? And if all the pieces of evidence fit very well into one story, they support the truth of the story. This is the way that philosophers work, especially if we're thinking about a large claim like the claim that God exists or the claim that God doesn't exist. These claims are overarching. It's very rarely going to be one piece of evidence that strongly support these claims. It's going to be a number of pieces working together to justify or ground a particular theory. So when we do philosophy, even though we might set up our arguments as deductive arguments, most of the work is done in supporting the premises and bringing evidence to bear on the claims we want to make.